Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Blockhash Exploring the Blockchain, episode 309. Today, we're going to be talking with the CEO of Hashflow and today's version of what DEXs look like and what they are doing with theirs at Hashflow. Varun, is that how I say your first name?
Oh, yes. It's like the band Maroon 5, but with the V. So,
Varun. Okay, cool. Varun 5. How you doing?
I would love to go with that name now. I'm doing great. I think chipping away. Lots to build, lots to come. So always exciting.
Oh, absolutely, and it's been a much more exciting start to this year compared to last. So I think all that building is starting to pay off a little bit.
No, for sure. I think last year, to be fair, I still wouldn't celebrate just yet. Obviously, it's a better start to this year compared to last year, but I would still say, like, this is still, the, bear market, build market, whatever you call it. But I think this is a time where we can make, meaningful contribution to the space. So what you build is going to have a big impact. And this is a time to focus, no distractions. And I think it's just a great time to build. So.
Yeah, I don't think we're out of the proverbial woods just yet, but we're getting closer, and it's a new year, and it's been a fabulous start thus far. So fingers crossed that 2023 is a bit better. Before we jump in and start talking about Hashflow, I'm sure people are going to be very curious about you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your backgrounds? What did you do prior to Hashflow?
Well, I was an aerospace engineer, right? So I was working for a small startup that builds satellite systems. So we were building, I was specifically working on the control systems for CubeSats that do Earth imaging. So I was in the space industry before getting into crypto. So obviously, also my background is in physics and aerospace engineering, and that's so how I started. Like, I grew up wanting to be an astronaut. I still want to go to space at some point, but I think crypto is also exciting. So I got into the space in 2016-17 timeframe, and then since then, I've been just doing crypto as a side hustle, you can call it. But then 2020, late or early 2021 is when Hashflow happened, and now ironically, I work in the quote unquote fintech, and we used to make fun of finance people in college, but now it's fun. I if I give anyone trouble, I take it back now.
How'd you go from working with satellites and doing all this stuff to blockchain? How did it come across your radar?
I think 2015-16 time was where I was everyone was talking about Bitcoin at that time, and I think a friend of mine I met in a hot tub introduced me to. He told me about Ethereum back then, and he was just look into it. He was not even look into it. He was just like, go and get some ether, and this is gonna be like, this is gonna change your life. And I'm like, he's like, don't ask too many questions. He's like, just go about it. I'm like, all right, okay, fine. And then, but I bought some Bitcoin and Ethereum at that time, but I also started going down the rabbit hole, and I think it struck a nerve in the sense that from an ideological standpoint, what crypto stood for is something that resonated with me. Right, so someone who cared about self-sovereignty and freedom and things that basically allow you to maximize your self as an individual and not be controlled by big governments around the world and be manipulated. I think crypto seemed to be you know, uh, the step away from slavery. So
Right.
I often joke about this, where like fiat is like an Uber for slavery. So no, unless it's a crypto. If you think about what the internet was to the flow of information, then crypto was doing that to the idea of money and you know, units of account. Right. And I think that to me was like a powerful narrative. And I'm like, well, for the first time, if you think of money as a technology, then before Bitcoin, you had like governments who had monopoly on this technology through their monopoly on violence, right? That got to enforce this usage upon you. Now you basically have money as a choice where you can. It's an incentive design that you can opt into as opposed to being born into a system and having to comply with the demands of your overlords, right? So I think that's sort of what resonated with me a lot, and going to crypto, and you know, never look back ever again. So ah, and now here we
Yeah, I think it's, very similar to you that it is to me. The ideological narrative of crypto is very attractive, and I think what lends so much value to this industry.
Mhm.
Whereas, you talked about like fiat being like the Uber to slavery. It makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways, but crypto gives you some of that self sovereignty and freedom that financially I don't think people have ever really truly had. There's a lot of value in that and what it stands for, and to be independent, to be decentralized, to be separate from the system, to have control over your life and what you do. And again, I think that's very attractive to many people out there, and is what's led so much credence to this industry.
No, absolutely. So I think like we should talk about when crypto. What's interesting
Mhm.
is it's not just like tech, or it's not just politics. It's not like one aspect. It's a spectrum of various disciplines coming together, and I think there's a room for everyone to contribute. Right? You have economics, you have politics, you have ideology, uh, then you have like incentive design mechanisms, you have game theory. So it kind of combines all these aspects, and then you design something. It's orthogonal to the existing frameworks. So,
Yeah, completely. How did you end up? Did you create and found Hashflow, or did you do it with other co-founders, or how'd you guys start this?
I was initially just looking into uh, uh, like various exchanges at that time, like the Dexes, Dex space, right? And over time, uh, the idea of thinking there could be there could be more improvements. So just take a step back, right? So Uniswap came about, and that really what led to the DeFi summer, right? So that people got excited about the idea of the simplicity of Uniswap and how anybody can be a market maker. So to take a step back further, to zoom out a little bit more, the way trading traditionally works is you've got market makers who are responsible for building the liquidity books on your centralized limit order book that you will see on Binance or Coinbase, etc. And then you have takers who go and trade against that liquidity being provided, right? But generally the liquidity is pretty proprietary, right? In the sense that someone has to go and always make sure that they are on the other side providing the counterparty risk, right? And being the counterparty to all the trades. Now, and because doing so in an algorithmic way takes lots of computational power and capital, and also just lots of money. It wasn't something anybody could do, right? So what Uniswap did is it simplified the process, because the whole idea was how do we build a DEX, right? So to compete against the centralized incumbents. And what Uniswap did was it built a smart contract that had a formula, and anyone can just throw in capital, and the contract will basically use that capital and manage that to set the price. So as a result, anyone can go and request a quote, and Uniswap will always give you a quote. Right? So that was the key innovation, the 0 to 1 innovation you could call it. Not only it basically changed the whole psyche of how DeFi was perceived. Right? DeFi became a thing. Now, and then obviously there's different various markets emerged, like Compound, the lending markets, Aave, and there was like lots of innovation going on, and which is kind of where I was looking into DeFi as well, right? And I think one of the key things that I was looking into is this is good, But how do we build a more cap efficient market structure where while this design is good, right, it by no means is perfect. Like that, but this design I'm referring to, the AMM, soft like design. It's good in the sense that you'll always receive a quote no matter what, right? Because of the way it's been designed. But the bad about that is the price discovery is still happening on CFI, and someone has to use that as a reference to trade against the Uniswap pools to arbitrage against the liquidity in the pools. Which means if you're a liquidity provider, you're almost always losing money because you're doing a bad trade. Essentially, your smart contract is doing a bad trade on your behalf. Uh, and the arbitrager is basically taking advantage of that again and again, back and forth. Right? And not to mention, it also requires lots of capital uh, being locked into a single smart contract, and you cannot deploy it elsewhere, right? And to go further beyond that, if you want to price any asset class that is not necessarily a spot, uh, not even spot, like a blue chip or a stable coin, it's really difficult to do that unless you have a large inventory of assets. And if you're doing like anything like a derivative asset, like an option or a future or so on, anything that converges to a certain price over time, it's again really difficult to do that using on-chain pricing mechanisms, primarily because of the latency requirements, latency issues that come with on-chain pricing, and and especially if it's on an L1. Right? So this is where using off-chain pricing models are far more elegant, and far more what to say. You can do a lot more with moving the pricing logic off chain, and not to mention you also get around issues like front running or MEV exploits that we typically see with on chain pricing mechanisms, right? So like, well, why don't we take a step back and build something where we decouple pricing logic from moving that on chain to off chain, but we keep the execution of the trades on chain, so users still receive the same Uniswap like permissionless experience where they can go request a quote and do a swap and not custody their funds with anybody. And to add to that, they also can do more interesting things like they can trade with more guarantees around the price that they see. That's exactly what they're going to receive. There's no surprises, and they can do more fun things like cross-chain swaps. They can basically trade any kind of asset class in a way where their trades are always protected. Right. So that's the general idea behind how we've designed it, and not to mention that because you are uh, moving away from on-chain pricing to off-chain pricing, you can actually get much more tighter spreads too in most cases, right? So I think it just improves the user experience significantly, and it's also a better use of the capital that is being used to provide liquidity, right? Which makes the overall system more cap efficient too, and not just for the exchange, but generally just builds a much more cap efficient market structure going forward, right? So I think that's the general basis for or the thinking behind why we created Hashflow at that time. But to answer your earlier question, who was involved at the beginning? So I think it's like a team effort, right? So I think we've had like Victor, then two other co-founders who helped me a lot to get things going. So it wasn't just like me somehow magically changed everything. So.
Right. That's awesome. So how do people use Hashflow? Is it a website? You got to connect your wallet. Do you have integrations with existing wallets? People just download. How does this work? How does a customer use it?
So there's a website where you can just go connect your wallet, do a swap, right? And we're on 6 different EVM chains currently. So you can swap on any of those chains, or you can also swap cross-chain within any of these chains natively and without using a bridge. So you can just send ETH, receive BNB. Well, that feature will be live in this in the upcoming week or weeks. So that's the alpha here. So right now you can do stable swaps, but we'll be launching native cross-chain swaps this coming weeks. We already tested the prototype, and on the testnet, it's working really well. So can't wait for that to go live in production. That'd be super cool. Right?
Nice.
So you can actually literally send like, I don't know, BNB, receive Matic, and you don't have to go to any bridge or anything else. You can just do that in a single transaction. So I think that would be really cool, and that is something I've been looking forward to that. So can't wait for that to go live, and and all these in like a single step. Right, you don't have to go find a bridge, do any of that nonsense, right? So it's all like it's gonna happen in like one single go. So that'll be fun. And the other ways we get taker volume is through integrations with different various DEX aggregators like 1inch, Odos, OpenOcean, and all these guys. They've been sending us a bunch of volume. So we've been taking a good chunk of their trading volume. I think on average we take anywhere between 8 to 15% of 1inch volume daily at the moment. Like if you go on 1inch router, you will see like Hashflow pop up on most trades, right? Because again, of the quotes being just generally superior to other protocols there. So I think that's already something that's in life, and you can check it out. And speaking of aggregators, there will be another exciting aggregator that will be joining the roster. We'll be announcing that next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. I wouldn't name them just yet, but you may already know if you know. So aggregator being the hint.
Nice.
So I think yeah. That's the long answer to your short question.
So how does this separate itself from other dexes? What are the benefits of using Hashflow versus maybe some of the other competition out there? Is it a difference in fees? Is it a cross-chain compatibility? What makes it stand out?
What's that? Say again?
What makes Hashflow stand out from other dexes?
I think like I talked about it, right? So if I have to say like what does it mean for the end user, I would say what you see is what you get, like no surprises. So if I tell you can buy like 100 ETH for $10,000, then that's exactly what's going to happen in the swap. No one is going to front run you. There will be no sandwich attacks and so on, where you see a different quote when you receive it. So and not to mention that you can basically trade any kind of asset class. That doesn't have to be spot, and it could be priced just as easily as any other asset class. Then you can do things like cross-chain, which you cannot do on any other application. Right? You can go between any EVM chains, and we'll be adding a non-EVM chain. The first non-EVM chain will be coming to Hashflow in the next quarter, and you'll be able to do swaps between EVM and non-EVM chain as well in a just as seamless manner as you can with like an EVM to EVM chain, right? So these are all the things that make it really, really unique for users to trade here. And the experience, right, is just really seamless. We've spent a lot of time in terms of design and implementation of these things. So that's generally what, and not to mention the pricing is like pretty good. So these are things that make it a really, really good experience to trade and go on the platform and do it. And then we also have Taker APIs that people can use to just send us quotes if they like to do that. So yeah, I think I will stop there. I think I said a lot, but these are generally the big highlights that I would talk, that I emphasize on.
Yeah. What about slippages in terms of either like the fees or the prices? I know on other dexes that's usually a quite frequent issue where someone says, I want to buy X amount of ETH for X amount of dollars. And then as they go to make the trade, something changes, price slips or a fee slip. Is that something that you guys are able to help kind of minimize?
So slippage is okay. So slippage is not a bad thing, right? Generally, that's what makes markets like more healthy and the price discovery more healthy. And the idea is the way slippage work. Slippage is basically the difference in what you see when you agree on to trade something, and by the time you trade, the final amount you end up receiving, right? So that delta is the slippage here. Traditionally in order books, you'll see slippage because you have different price levels. And if you're doing a market buy, for example, then your market order gets executed at like the first level. Once, if your amount you're buying is too large for that level to clear, then you'll buy from the second level. So what you're saying is basically, I have $10,000, buy me all the Bitcoin available in your price levels, right? And then you just trade. And not every price level may have the same price. So the price is not guaranteed, right? So as a result, if you're doing large trades, for small trades, and if an exchange is pretty liquid, it's not an issue. But for larger trades, especially there's less liquidity, then your price may, there may be a significant impact on not just the amount you receive, but also just on the market because there's a massive buy or sell that took place, right? So which is as a result, people tend to trade OTC to minimize this impact, right? And that's what slippage is, right? So on Uniswap, you see this again because of the nature of the bonding curve. Or well, when I say Uniswap, I'm referring specifically to AMMs or any kind of on-chain pricing mechanism, as opposed to just Uniswap, right? So you see slippage because uh, anytime you trade, the price moves in a certain direction, and the more you buy on one side, the more the price will go up. And it will approach infinity on the curve, right? So with Uniswap V3, you can set the price range. So instead of the price going from infinity to infinity, the price is going to move between the range you set. But the idea is the price is going to move uh, uh, asymptotically to the range you set, right? So or infinity, right? So how we see it. And this is basically, this can be avoided if you agree on the quote before you even trade, right? The way Hashflow gets around not having slippage in this sense is that you bake in any price impact you might have into one single quote, and once you agree on that, then there is no more surprise. Like that's the quote. It's kind of like an OTC trade, where you go and lock in your OTC trade, and then once you lock that trade in, then that's it. You executed that unless there's a big black swan event, and then the counterparty tells you like, hey, we need to readjust the price. But usually, you see the price and you get the quote, and then once you lock it in, that's what you execute on, uh, and it will never change. Right? So that's kind of how it works.
Cool. No, it's good to know a bit more about it. I think it's, intriguing for people to understand kind of how some of that stuff works, especially with like slippages and whatnot, and why maybe they don't get those exact prices they try to lock in. I also noticed you guys had something called Hashverse as well. Is that like a metaverse take, or is that like a DeFi thing? Tell me more about it.
For sure. So I think it's so Hashverse is the name of the DAO, right? So that
Okay.
we launched the token in November, and then we started the regular voting, and then we expanded to V mechanics, and now we are expanding that to basically add the Hashverse layer on top of the governance. Right. So generally, the idea is to build a DAO or governing platform that not only is focused purely on voting on things, but also creates this opportunity for everyone to participate and be able to, no matter what kind of skills they bring, who they are, where they're from, they can actually basically be somebody in this universe, right? So that's a general idea. And with contribution and with hard work and dedication, they can rise up the ranks and actually become like key stakeholders in everything that's going on within the DAO, right? So that's the general idea of or the motivation behind creating that. And to give you an example, right? So in this case, the way and the way you want to design the hashverse is you have your player, they stake their HFTs, and once they do, they are going to have their own hashverse avatar, which over time they can evolve by completing various tasks that directly benefit the protocol and the DAO and the community as a whole, right? And these quests could range all the way from trading competitions to uh, secondary quests that involve trying out new product features, testing them out, to maybe contributing to the source code, to all the way to creating memes, writing blog posts, and helping with brand marketing, creating artwork. So basically, you can contribute in any capacity, and as long as that has a meaningful impact on a protocol, you will be rewarded with uh, called XP or called like a new HFT that is going to be given out each month. So the idea is to incentivize this kind of behavior, whether you are operating on three folds. A, you're driving different trading competitions to uh, drive more trading activity. Then you're also uh, giving new users this taste of Hashflow by trying the product out for the first time and use that for user retention. And then you're also using the whole social component of it for hype and brand marketing to build a more vibrant community that will be more actively involved in the day-to-day things that we do at Hashflow or Hashverse, right? And you combine this with this nice RPG game style mechanics, which make it a lot more fun. Because right now, I think the key thing at the end of the day is doing anything should be fun, right? And if it's not fun, then it's just over time, it's just you won't be having you would lose interest. And I think current DAO, the way they're set up, I don't think they're that exciting. And I think gaming or adding gamified elements to it, like being able to collect these loot items and discovering secret scrolls and then using them to uh, uh, participate and interact in a social manner with the other participants in the DAO. I think that could be it's an experimental design. I don't have an opinion whether it's gonna be like it's gonna work. It's not gonna work, but I think it's gonna work based on the fact that we've put our work into this, and not to mention, I think generally I believe that gaming is gonna be the next wave of crypto, and I think there's also been lots of interest, and not to mention that that is a way to unite and bring many people and communities together. So I think adding these kind of gaming aspects into DAO is actually going to be a fun experiment to see how it turns out.
Yeah, that's awesome. That seems like a really cool, experiment that could, really help build around like a community, and really, create some long-term interest, which is really good. Speaking of, do you guys have a community on Discord or on Telegram for Hashflow or Hashverse?
Well, Hashflow is the only Discord we have currently, and same with Twitter. But we pretty much discuss most things about everything on both channels. So if users want to go to Discord channel, we are always like pretty active. We post pretty frequent updates on Twitter as well. So our intern has been on fire every day. So we I think you can come check it out, talk to us.
Absolutely. I'd love to. I've always loved Discord. It's just gotten very saturated lately. It's a very lively place with a lot of characters. But yeah, I'll definitely jump in and say hi. What's coming up on you guys' roadmap? Like, what do you guys have planned out, going into the rest of this year? What are some important things you're working on that you want people to keep an eye on or be aware of?
In terms of roadmap, there's a lot of interesting things coming up. Like I said, like Hashverse is going to ship in this quarter, or by end of this one, hopefully. But I'm pretty optimistic about its release. There's a new collaboration with Magic Eden coming up. The nature of the collaboration is to be announced. So I think that's all the alpha I've got there. I also mentioned something about a non-EVM chain being launched sometime in the Q2 of this year. That would be really, really big. I think I haven't mentioned the name of the chain, but I think you guys already know. If you know, you kind of can guess. It's like that'd be fun. And then I think we also talked about the limit order book feature that's going to be shipping sometime in the second half of the year, right? And I think that would be something to look forward to, because the idea is, how do you build the best possible exchange that gives you this Binance Deribit-like experience, but without the counterparty risk that comes with using a centralized venue. And I think we've been researching that problem a lot, and I think we have some pretty good, pathways to solve that. And I think once that product is live, it's gonna be fire. Right? So can't wait for that. So we also put out a public roadmap that is on Twitter. If you go onto our Twitter, you can actually see it. It's pinned message. So you can actually just use that to see what's to come. But I think these are the big things that I'm excited about.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about your guys' roadmap. It's very cool what you guys are doing. And I love DEXs in particular. I love getting away from decentralized and points of failure, I guess I call them, as exchanges, because of, you've seen everything that's happened in the past year. From Celsius to Voyager to FTX, there's Terra Luna, like so many different incidents, and a lot of it caused by centralized authority. So, very happy to see what you guys are doing, and more from DEXs in the future.
I do want to add something there, though. Generally, I don't think centralization is a bad thing, right? So I think, in fact, I would say centralization is a feature if it's by choice, and it's a bug if it's forced on you, right? So one of the reasons why decentralized money makes sense is because for the longest time, money was a monopoly, centralized money was a monopoly, and you had no choice but to comply, right? Or otherwise you're a criminal, right? So I think, and that narrative is like slowly shifting now, right? So where you're basically having money that cannot be manipulated by any governments around the world for political gains, right? So which is where decentralization there is paramount for you to have that kind of a free society. Now, in terms of using, like for example, do I need to have a decentralized Uber? Probably not, because like if I don't like Uber, I can switch to another service, right? And on the other hand, uh, running a centralized service with the right stakeholders having the right incentives to make the service really really good for the end user is probably a good thing. Like you don't want like every decision being made by like 10,000 people, right? That's how I would see it. So that's a trade-off. Now, in terms of centralized exchange versus decentralized exchange, again, it's the same thing, right? It's not about one ring to rule them all kind of situation. It comes down to what aspects of the system must be centralized and what must be decentralized to deliver the best user experience, right? So in that sense, like for example, Binance is like one of the best user experiences out there, and they also have the largest market share despite everything, right? It's like they got nearly 80-90% of the market share, and that's because it's easy to use, and they have liquidity, and also I think people can easily get on board and use them. And the current crypto infrastructure doesn't support that just yet. So hopefully we'll get there. So the idea is how do you build that Binance-like experience, and what trade-offs do you need to make to decentralize perhaps custody or the use of funds, so that what you don't want to have is the counterparty risk of the exchange going down and therefore the users losing funds. I think that's a bad scenario, right? So if you can fix that, but you can have like a more centralized price discovery, but the user has a choice not to trade if they don't like the price. And I think it's a good design because you have the choice, but you're also not risking user funds, right? So I think that's where I think there's a room for both, but really it's a sweet spot where it makes sense for things to work.
Yeah, there's trade-offs and there's positives to having a centralized exchange. Absolutely. And I still use them. I just think there hasn't been a whole lot of good options until, the last maybe year or so with DEXs, where people have an option if they want to take more control and kind of get outside of that system if they want to. And it scares people too when you see so many go down, especially one of the biggest in the world with FTX. That's a lot of anxiety for a lot of people. So I think at least having a bit of a balance and some optionality is, I think, what's key here for people and being able to choose what they want to do with their money.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Anyways, where can people go to learn more about Hashflow if they want to use it, they want to connect a wallet, they want to get some more info? Do they just go to the website, or where would you direct them?
I would say hashflow.com is the best place to discover more information, and then to get up-to-date news about everything we do. At Hashflow, the Twitter handle is really good. And if you want to engage, talk to more people, just be part of the community, uh, come to our Discord. I think it's quite active there. So I think these are the different venues where I would direct people to go to.
Awesome. Sounds good. Where can people find you as well online if they want to maybe chit chat with you or have a conversation?
My Twitter handle is Gandalf the Brown, but I use a zero instead of an O. So that's my Twitter handle. Uh, if you don't spam my DMs, I'll likely respond. If you're just sending me something weird, then I'd likely not respond. But otherwise, I'm usually active on Twitter. I don't post much, but I obviously look at things. So I definitely am there.
You should change your handle to Varun5. I thought that was a good one at the beginning.
I should do that. Maybe for a change. New year, new me. So maybe next year.
Awesome. Guys, make sure to go check out Hashflow, check out Varun here, and make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Go down, like the video, subscribe to the channel. And Varun, thank you for taking the time to come on. Really do appreciate it. Been a good talk. Learned a lot about what you guys are doing as well as DEXs in general. And it'd be fun to have another conversation in the future. I think there's a lot of things, that we could potentially dive into on this topic. So thank you for sharing today.
Of course. Thank you, Zach. So Brandon, sorry.
Brandon, Zach, Brandon.
Not Sam. No, I saw your last name. I said Zemp. I said Zap. Wait a minute, Zemp. But it's,
I don't have two first names.
yes. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Take care, man. We'll talk soon.
All right. Cheers.